Thank you guys for being here. I'm really excited. I know we're all here at our annual end of year offsite. Have everybody in town out in the desert, Phoenix.
Yeah.
I know a couple of us are natives, but Kavina, I know you're coming in from Toronto. Thanks for making the trip. I hope you're enjoying some sunshine. And I guess John on our last one, he said it's more Christmassy here than it is in Canada. So I guess us in the desert really like to celebrate. But today we're talking about some of your favorite projects, some of the ones that you felt have really driven some significant business impact, maybe have been a little unique too, and just something that is worth sharing with other RevOps professionals or people who potentially might want to implement this type of work in the company that they're at currently. So I think, Dave, I'll probably start with you. Really interested in some of the work you've been doing this year, really highly technical work. And everything you work on always seems to be exciting.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to have an affinity for data, and I think attribution is really important, especially for marketing. And one of the things that I've witnessed a lot of is when people visit your website, they're not necessarily getting the right attribution. And where that often comes from is maybe they clicked on an ad somewhere, visit the website, poke around a little bit, leave, come back at another time, and now you have no connection to that paid visit or a search visit or something like that. And so your attribution often is whatever that particular session is. And we're talking about when they become a lead. Mm-hmm. So that attribution in that particular session is going to be limited to that exact session that they're in. I came up with an idea of enhanced lead source tracking that takes advantage of first-party cookies and will capture anything from that first visit. So when they come back, say a third or fourth time, it'll always remember a little bit more about that visit. Again, if it's like a paid advertisement where there's UTM tracking parameters that were present when they visited, those get captured. Referring URLs like from Google or Bing or a organic search, or from a social media platform like a Facebook or X, Twitter, those kind of things, that all gets captured. And then when they do fill out the form, you're actually taking that information and pushing that into hidden fields in the form, capturing that so that they get true attribution from the real first point of attribution, which most people just don't get.
No, that's super impressive. I think it's always an issue getting attribution. And it feels like every time we're doing like a marketing budget analysis or trying to figure out like which channel is driving the most revenue, it gets really, really gray and fuzzy the more up funnel you go. So that's really, really interesting. So you'll be taking a lot of that data and embedding it in the form. And how are you storing that data and making sure that when they come back for another session, you're capturing that so you can have that as they fill out the form and work their way down the funnel?
Yeah, so the implementation really is JavaScript and putting that on the browser. Like, so you're serving up the JavaScript, and what that's doing is it's storing it into first-party cookies that'll be for the domain of your website. And you do want to store those at the top level so that they're available to subdomains as well, just in case you have any of that going on, like, checkouts, shop dot, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So you got to know some JavaScript. You got to work with your web dev team. And then you have to be able to interface with the forms. And some of the forms are a little bit challenging. If they're your homegrown forms, not such a problem. But when you have things like a Marketo or a HubSpot form, which they're rendered by JavaScript, so you're basically putting in like embed code in your web page, and then the form pops up. You don't generally have immediate access to those fields. So if you're going to try to run some JavaScript that's pulling from your first-party cookies and say, I want to put these into hidden fields on the form, they may not be available or accessible yet. So then you have to use specific JavaScript that works with HubSpot forms or with Marketo forms as examples that will intentionally wait for the availability of that, have callback functions that says, yes, the form is now available. I have some of these first-party cookies available with the data for attribution. Then I'm going to put them into the form so that when they submit, all of that original information for attribution gets stored on the record when it gets created.
That's amazing. What are some insights that you feel you've drawn once you had access to the data? Was there anything surprising that you saw? Did you see, hey, our paid ads are actually performing much better than we thought, or maybe much worse, or some other channels?
Yeah, I mean, there's an immediate uptick, right? You end up with a lot of like direct traffic, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of that's not really direct. if you think about first attribution, which was never captured. So you'll start to see a little bit of a shift, especially if you're doing paid campaigns or you get a lot of referred traffic. So from blog articles, as long as you're using that UTM stuff, because again, it's UTMs or referring URL. So if it's traffic from somewhere else, you'll start to see an uptick. It's just a slight shift, less direct, more attributable traffic. And then you're like, aha, that's good.
That is so cool. I do think there's a big misconception around the effectiveness of ad spend, or content is a huge one too. Hey, people are producing a lot of content, but how much of that is referring people to their website? And I think if marketing teams had more data to show the attribution, they could definitely get bigger budgets, and just be more effective and efficient with where they're putting it.
Yeah. And this doesn't even get into like multi-touch attribution, where like remarketing, those tend to rarely get any kind of credit. So when you're looking at your ad spend for retargeting, you will see that maybe there's just not a lot of conversion from that because it's not being captured. You have first touch, you have last touch, and somewhere in the way, like you may have clicked on a website and they retarget you, and then you come back to the website, you do something, you don't convert, and then you come back and do something else, and you finally convert. You're getting that last touch or the first touch, but never the retargeting touch. And that's where multi-touch becomes pretty important too.
The problem of attribution just never gets easy.
Complicated. Yeah.
100%. Well, I love that method, and I love that unique way of approaching the problem to get the data you need to drive more impact and hit your targets. Kavin, I know you've worked on a number of projects here at LeanScale, and you have a really vast consulting background before joining the team here as well. But we'd love to hear, what you have found was an interesting project or engagement that you've been a part of here since you joined the team.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's hard not to mention this one just because of how jaw-opening and eye-opening it was. We had this project where essentially from trial sign-up to lead creation, it took roughly 37 minutes for that entire process to run through. So you can imagine there was tons of system delays, and we were essentially tasked to figure out why this was happening.
Hang on, let me make sure I clarify. So somebody fills out a form.
Yep.
It took 37 full minutes before it became a lead in their CRM?
In Salesforce, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. That's insane.
What type of labyrinth of systems did they have going on, and how did that even happen?
Yeah, so it was a combination of your usual suspects. So we had hundreds of HubSpot workflows that, as you can imagine, it was one field populating another field, and it was kind of this back and forth issue. And mind you, they had thousands of workflows, but hundreds of which were relevant. So as you can imagine, what that entailed was doing a full audit, getting into G Sheets, and really just working through and understanding what the logic was for all of that. Following HubSpot, we had to get into Salesforce, of course, figuring out what the Salesforce flows were. Turns out there was also a Chili Piper integration that also had built-in delays. So as you can imagine, it was essentially all four of those, and then that was all getting directed into Lean data, which also had system delays. So it was a lot. I think the difficult part was identifying which delays we can confidently turn off. Because as you can imagine, with information being passed back and forth, we have to make sure that the necessary time is being spent so we can get that retrieval of other data from the other systems. So yeah, definitely tough, but it was one that we started with 37 minutes and we got it down to 12. So it was a crazy process, but I think we did a pretty good job there.
With the same level of data capture and routing and not having any hindrance on performance, right?
Yeah. It was, honestly, thinking back, it's even crazy now just to think of how much we did. But
And I know for some people listening, they may think like, okay, what's the difference between 37 and 12 minutes? It can mean a conversion rate difference of 50%. So when people are in the moment, if you think about it, like I'm in between a meeting, I'm going to do some research on something I'm interested in. I'm going to hit a request a demo form. And then if they can get back to me right away, maybe I can book some time, maybe I can find it, maybe I can be available for that. If they don't, and I go into another meeting and another meeting, and I got 3 more initiatives get thrown on my plate, all of a sudden that thing that I was interested in an hour ago just doesn't seem as important as it did at that time. So the difference between, 37 and 12 minutes could easily be the difference between moving a deal along or not.
For sure. Yeah, definitely one to remember.
Yep. And in terms of maintenance, how are we making sure that like it stays that low? Like how do you make sure the spaghetti code of whatever was going on doesn't pile up again and hinder that speed to lead process?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is due to inexperience. A lot of the system, the flows, the automations that were built out they were built with these delays in mind, with not a lot of thought and experience behind. And again, not to blame their team, but it helps when you've seen and you've consulted with multiple different companies and you've seen different systems and how flows and automations should be built in a more efficient sense. So again, no fault to their team. They definitely wanted to be careful and ensure that information is being passed accordingly, but it's really just that it's a lot of delays that did not need to be there. So just keeping in mind what the key fields and key metrics were at the time, it's definitely helped keep things at a steady pace.
Awesome. Yeah, I think speed is everything in startups and go-to-market, and in the segments that we serve, speed is crucial. So any little bit of savings, especially if you have high volume, any little bit of savings we can make tend to go a really long way.
For sure.
Izzy, I know you've worked on a lot of your own projects, your own engagements, and I also know you've done a lot of cross-functional work with different teams. But what's an initiative that you thought was really interesting this year that you think people in the RevOps community could learn from too?
Yeah, I think something we have built out for multiple of our clients here at LeanScale that is a super important initiative is reporting and just tracking their metrics to goal, seeing those win rates and close loss rates. So an initiative that we did to fix that is by creating and standing up a executive level monthly reporting pack for a few of our customers. And every single month, automating, pulling in reports that we're tracking all of their leads created and opportunities created, and we're ensuring that all of that data hygiene is clean and well kept up. And we do this in order to create them very important reports, such as stage to stage conversion rates, creating close won conversion rates, close loss conversion rates, really showing them what their data looks like on a month-to-month basis, when sometimes you can be a little step back and out of scope, but we need to look at the month picture so we can see the full year picture. And I think it's really important to just go in and do a data deep dive every single month of all your business. And the fact that we got to do that for a couple of our customers is awesome. And then provide them with insights and information that helps them with their sales tracking, all their lead attributions, making sure everything's well kept up within their CRM instances. So what we would do is we would use their CRM data and then use that in Looker, and then create them an entire ready-to-go pack of all of their high key metrics, and then use their target goals for that year and track their actuals to their goals. So they have all this information about month to month, what their actuals are to their goals, and they can see it in real time.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think in RevOps, we're trying to improve one of 3 things: the effectiveness of your go-to-market organization, the efficiency of your go-to-market organization, or improve decision support. And oftentimes that one is a little overlooked, and it tends to be one of the most important. So if you don't have really good data to make decisions, making a wrong decision can be really detrimental, maybe even existential. So those reporting packs of having, hey, here's all of your key performance to plan information. We base everything off the growth model. you're trying to grow from X to Y, and here's exactly what we think it's going to take to get there. Now, once we start on that journey, let's see if all those assumptions are actually true. So if you're plus in one area or minus in another area, you have the opportunity to make adjustments along the way to that growth model and that growth plan.
Exactly. Keeping everything aligned with the growth model is extremely helpful when looking at the monthly reporting packs, because we can see how well they performed, if they over or underperform maybe according to the growth model. And then that helps us, quarter by quarter align and update the growth model to what their actuals will be before the end of the year.
That's right. So a lot of this is done in Looker. You said you're connecting CRM data. Any other data sources or any other things that you're doing to pull off that process?
Yeah. So why we do it in Looker is because there are some CRM limitations when it comes to reporting and different types of calculations that we can do within certain CRMs. So it's important to pull it out of there and put it into something else like Looker so we can create those more in-depth analysis rates and charts and visualizations for our clients. And we also use, sometimes even more recently, we've also used Google Sheets to create other reports that we also can't build in Salesforce or HubSpot or other CRMs. We'll just pull the data, create that report in Google Sheets, and then feed it into Looker as well.
Nice. It's amazing to me that most CRMs don't become a house of your goals, and your goals aren't housed there. To me, it doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to do it, but at least we found a way to pull it off.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you all sharing some of the projects you've worked on, some of the unique approaches you've taken to some really difficult problems that we've run into with our customers and just being in RevOps in general. And I know it's been a great year of a lot of amazing work, and I can't wait to see what we do next year too. So thank you guys for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.